Hi there, I'm Brian Stevens, and welcome to the very first episode of Studio Test Kitchen. And I had hoped to have this first episode actually in my kitchen, but right now we're having a bunch of appliances that are being repaired, so they're all pulled out, and it's a mess down there. So I had a box that came in yesterday, and I could not wait to open this and show it to you. And with Studio Test Kitchen, that's what we're doing. We're gonna unbox new products, we're gonna try things in the studio, let you see what they look like, hear what they sound like, and this first thing that we're gonna do for the next couple of episodes actually is a really special one. It's one I've had my eye on for quite a while. If you know anything about me, you know that I love snare drums. Right now, I think the current count is somewhere between 75 and 80 snare drums that I own. And the thing that I've found is that the snare drum is one of the most versatile instruments in the entire drum set. And as drummers, we can really affect the feel and the direction that a tune will go by which snare drum we use. So instead of only having 4 or 5 snare drums and trying to get them to do everything, I've got a myriad of snare drum choices that all have completely different personalities. And so while most of them are fairly versatile, I really try and select a snare drum and use it for what its inherent personality is. So you can already guess what's in the box. Now this one is really special, and as soon as we get it out, you'll see why. So we'll call this first episode the unboxing, and we're gonna take a few episodes actually to work with this snare drum. I'll just show you why. Here we go. So opening the box. Okay, yeah, I did get that good. It's really well packed, it looks like. Let's see. All right, this first box. Nothing in that one actually. It looks like a drumhead box, but it's actually just packing material. So we're gonna get rid of that. And the very first thing I see will let you know why we're gonna take a few episodes with this. This, my friends, is an 8x14 Black Brass Snare Drum shell. And this snare drum shell and the rest of what's in the box comes courtesy of drumsupply.com out of Nashville, Tennessee. And they've got a whole line of do-it-yourself snare drums where, in the case of this particular drum, you get a 38-piece kit that has all of the parts that you would need to assemble your own snare drum, starting with this shell, which is 8x14 black brass, and it's absolutely beautiful. I'm going to hold it up to this camera here for just a second and just give you a little look-see on that. That is a beautiful, beautiful drum right there. And so ordering this was super, super easy. In fact, I did it from my phone. So if you go to drumsupply.com, this is not a paid advertisement for them. I ordered this with my own money because I'd been waiting a long time to get one of these. You can peruse their entire selection of snare drums. They've got snare drums of different shell types, maple, aluminum, they may have steel, and black brass, 5x14, 6.5x14, and even these 8x14 drums. The reason I wanted an 8x14 is I have 2 8x14 snare drums already. One of them is a maple Gretsch drum. The other one is made out of rosewood. They have completely different sounds. And I wanted something that was metal, and I knew I wanted a brass snare drum, sort of like an 8x14 Black Beauty. But if you know anything about those, the Black Beauty is about $860. for the 8x14 model. The closest in terms of price and feature comparison to this one is going to be the Pork Pie 8x14, and it's a custom patina finish, which comes in about around $400 before tax. This, if you have them drill the holes for you, comes in under $300. So you're going to save a significant amount, and that significant amount you're saving is because you have to put it together yourself. So let's keep looking in the box and let's see what else comes in this amazing kit. This is one of our 2.3 millimeter triple flange tubes, and this one it's an 8-lug drum. This one's the top. Funny because on this little table, and a 14-inch head, 14-inch rim really looks kind of large. This, obviously with the slots, is obviously the snare side rim. And let's see what else comes in the package. We've got, looks like some snares. It looks like it's 20 wires. Or maybe it's 25 wires. I'll count them later and tell you. But you're going to need something more than, say, a 16 strand or a 14 strand for a drum this deep to get a lot of snare response out of it. So nice set of snares to come with it. Now, I specifically asked Andy down at Drum Supply to make sure to pack these with the heads that I normally use. I've been an Evans artist now since 1997. And so normally these come with Remo heads, but I asked him to put in a coated G1 and a 300 snare side head. So that brings up an interesting thing. You can actually ask for some customization. Some of them may cost you a little more money, but if you would rather have different lugs than what come on this, if you'd like a different snare strainer, they can actually customize this drum to your liking. If you like the DW MagSafe throw off, they can actually cut the holes to fit that. Whatever strainer you'd like, whatever customizations you may want, may cost you a little more money. Now, word on the drilling, go ahead and pay the extra $20 to have them drill, because honestly, if I did have the equipment to drill this, it would take me hours and I'd probably screw it up anyway. So at least you know, getting it from Drum Supply, that all these holes are cut to fit specifically for your drum and your specs. Now, that's not all that's in here though. If I look, there we go. I was looking for that plastic package. I've got a package here that includes, looks like everything else. Wow, this is really nice. So you get these chrome over brass tube lugs that are absolutely amazing. I'll show it to that camera right there. That is an amazing, amazing looking tube lug. Very similar to what you'd get with the Pork Pie. And so you get 16 of those. You also get a snare strainer that looks a whole lot like a very familiar snare strainer from a company with a competing product. It's not exact, but it's really close. Some would say this is functional. I tell you what, this is probably one of the most bulletproof style snare strainers you could ever get. And because of the spacing of the holes, later on down the line, if this thing were to ever wear out, if you were just rode it too much, use it too much, wear it out, with that hole spacing, there are several other possibilities that you could fit right in there without having to cut anything different. So you've got your snare strainer and a really discreet looking butt plate that's really cool looking. All right, that's a cool little number right there. And then you've got all of your lugs and washers that you can use to put those heads on, tighten them down, get what you're looking for. That right there is the unboxing. I just wanted to do a really quick video to show you what was in the package and what you could expect for. This was $298 as it sits, with no real customization other than a different choice of heads. The great thing about this is it's a super high quality product. There's a lot of misnomers about these kind of products where maybe there's something inferior about the shell, or it's a second, or some of these other parts may be cheap. The parts on this drum are just about as professional as anything I've ever seen on any of the other 75 to 80 snare drums that I own. Now, can we scale up with a more expensive snare drum, strainer, or die-cast hoops or something like that? Sure, of course you can. But for $298, this is a heck of a value. And in the next video, we're actually going to put this drum together, and I want you to see how easy it is. One of the things that most drummers find out if you play more than 6 months is eventually you're going to have to replace parts on your snare drum, whether it's heads or snares or any of the other pieces. So learning to work on your own equipment is something that I really encourage most drummers to do pretty quickly. So this is a really great project to take that knowledge that you may have learned from years of changing your own heads and snares and having to tighten some of these screws around your lug casings and stuff. You take that knowledge and just apply it to assembling an entire drum. And that's what we'll do in the very next video. So thank you for watching the inaugural, the very first episode of Studio Test Kitchen. Breaking news right here on Studio Test Kitchen. I'm betting you didn't expect that. It seems like every 35 seconds on news channels now, that's the new thing. There's breaking news every 35 and a half seconds. So why not do it on this? Breaking news on Studio Test Kitchen. On Zoom right this second, I've got Andy Foote from Drum Supply here to talk with me about these DIY snare drum kits. Thanks for joining us today, Andy. How you doing?
Hey, doing good, Brian.
I really appreciate you taking time to talk with me today about this snare drum kit and really the different offerings that you have from Drum Supply. So we've already unboxed this drum, but tell me a little more big picture. What was the impetus to start doing these DIY snare drum kits?
Gosh, we've probably been doing them actually for a good 15, almost 20 years now. Maybe low on some radar, but for us, we've always sold pieces and parts, individual components for building and repairing drums. So a lot of people that build drums do buy parts from us and have over the decades, but this was more of a sort of a target for a one-stop shop. Click one item on the website and instead of having to select all the little pieces and parts, boom, you got everything you need, and we can modify from there. But it's more just an ease, and here's everything you need for this one thing. Go,
So, in this particular instance, what other types of kits do you have that people can order?
Well, literally the sky's the limit, but we've kind of dialed it down on the website now. We've got, metal snare shells is the biggest seller for us. Metal meaning, brass like yours. Typically it has a black nickel finish on it. Chrome over steel, and then aluminum, which is a more lightweight, sort of a brushed aluminum look. Those are the basic shell materials in metal. Different sizes between those, 5 by 14, 6.5 by 14. Yours is an 8 by 14. Mm-hmm. Yours is one of the newer ones. I think I literally just posted that one. We've always sold the components for that, but I just said, hey, why don't we have an 8 by 14 flat wall or center bead model on the site? Just kind of structured that and sent it to the site, and you were one of the first few to pick up one.
Cool.
And then other than that, also wood shells too. We've got a few piccolos and 6 by 13s and sort of 5.5 by 14s. But those are, for whatever reason, wood snares are just kind of fall second to metal snares, at least these days in our world.
Right. Seems like the metal snares are incredibly versatile, and even just a little bit that I've been able to record with this drum that I got from you, it's incredibly versatile.
Yeah, they're very lively, and they're easier to put together in some ways or to finish out because you don't have to worry with finishing the shell in any way. They're pre-finished in that regard, where we could pre-wrap wood shells and things like that, but that gets a little bit more custom, which is totally fine. But a lot of guys that are just into that one click, here's my snare drum, I just have to put it together. The brass or any of the metal drums are a good way to go. The brass being, the brass, the steel, the aluminum having different sonic qualities that a lot of drummers have experienced in, common snares since the 1920s. And brass is probably a top seller.
Yeah, I know it's in my studio, the brass snare drums that I've got are the ones that they're the go-tos that I start with most of the time. It seems like they cover a wide gamut of things. And if I'm getting into much more signature things, it tends to be a wood drum, some crazy Gretsch vintage drum from the 50s or something like that. So, so tell me this. Most people know what it's like to buy a snare drum from, say, a Guitar Center or a musician's friend or their favorite music store, maybe their local mom and pop. What can people expect in terms of the quality of the components on this DIY snare drum as compared to, say, a Pearl drum or a Gretsch drum or something like that? How do they compare?
As far as the components, the quality of the metal pieces that end up being that drum predominantly, they're on par. It's the same, often the same suppliers. There are truly only a handful of suppliers that manufacture all these parts for us, for a lot of the big name guys. And so, of course, manufacturers can make lower costing, lower quality stuff. They can make higher costing, higher quality stuff. But in this kit, we specifically, try to target a price point that makes it affordable, but yet, performance rich. In terms of the threading and the chrome over brass tube lugs. The strainer can be upgraded and modified. Those, we try to keep it as a stock item at a point where it's affordable and functional. And some guys opt to say, let's go die cast hoops, let's go a indie strainer, a trick strainer. But as a starting point, we keep it there. And then high quality parts, but we start with an 8-lug configuration to save a couple of bucks there.
That brings me to my next question. So there is some customizable facet to this. You can just order the drum as you curated the parts, but if someone wanted something different, the only change that I made was I had asked you to put Evans heads on there because I'm an Evans artist. And those Remos would just go on a shelf. So it just only made sense. So you could do different hoops. Now, obviously, there's a different cost structure for that because die-cast hoops are generally more expensive. But if somebody wanted, say, like 3mm triple flange as opposed to the 2.3, how crazy could I get with my customizations?
Just like the parts that you see on our primary parts site, drummaker.com, a lot of different hoop options, from triple flange, lightweight to heavier, more chunky, like you said, like the 3.0 triple flange. We even have chrome over brass hoops, which will make a huge tonal difference in a brass drum or any drum, really. They're kind of a secret weapon of a lot of guys. It's chrome over brass hoops. Single flanged, like the little claw hook style from the 20s. That's a cool one, especially for the brass. We're trying to go for that old school with the tube lugs and the single flange vibe, which are also available chrome over brass or chrome over steel to keep the cost down. No flange, which is just a heavy flat band steel hoop. We do a lot of those for guys too. Of course, die cast wood hoops and claws, whether that's the claw style like we use on some of our Hello drums. It's a house brand that we have, or the thick, chunky Yamaha style, with no claws, those kind of wood hoops. Those are an option too. What have I left out? S hoops, which are that sort of hard flanged inward bend, kind of a hybrid of a die cast and a triple flange, a little bit cheaper than a die cast. Stick saver hoops, the sort of curved inward style. I think that covers it all, but a lot of different hoop styles for sure.
So if someone wants to do those kind of customizations, you'd probably recommend that they give you a call as opposed to ordering directly from the site in this case.
Well, you can do that and then just give us, you've ordered that kit, and then we can make mods to that kit afterwards with the simple call or email is even better with details to say, okay, here's this upgrade. And so what we do there is we say, okay, you want to swap the hoops, swap the strainer. We deduct sort of a rebate for the cost of the stock parts, and then we add back the cost of the upgraded parts. So it's just a little switcheroo there. You're not, just say if a trick strainer is a $90 part, you're not adding $90 to the kit. You're adding $90 minus whatever the original strainer was. So, it's not just a full-on add. It's, it's modified.
Well, I'm looking forward to getting this drum downstairs into the studio, run it through its paces, and let people hear the thing. And I'm also kind of got my eye on a few other things. So who knows? Maybe I'll be DIYing a few more snare drums soon. Definitely. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
Yeah.
And like we've said, you can go to drumsupply.com. You can check out all of this stuff. There'll be some links below the video that you can get right to, especially this particular kit that I'm putting together for this 8x14 Black Brass Snare Drum. So, Andy, thanks so much for your time, man.
Thank you, Brian. See you.
So that's the unboxing. A lot of fun, a lot of cool stuff there. Drumsupply.com. That's where you can pick up this package for yourself, as well as look at all of their other snare drum offerings. Now, before I get out, I want to make sure I mention our sponsor, Session Ace. If you go to sessionace.com, you'll find all kinds of great tools to help you both in the studio and live, whether it's in-ear monitors or studio microphones or any number of other things that are in the Session Ace catalog. All of the Session Ace products are super high quality and really will help you do your job better, whether it's in the studio or on stage. So thank you so much for being here for the very first episode of Studio Test Kitchen, where we unbox the snare drum. In the next episode, we're going to put this thing together. See you next time.